We also want to thank Fifth Third Bank for hosting our location. For hosting us this morning as our presenting sponsor. And to that end, I'd like to invite Janet Beard to come up and give us a few remarks on behalf of Fifth Third Bank.
Thank you, Alan, and good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you all today. As Alan said, my name is Janet Beard, and I'm Vice President of Community and Economic Development for the Kentucky region, and we are proud to be the sponsor of today's event. As I look around the room, I see leaders that have worked hard to build and improve the community in which we live and work. Think about it, Lexington, ranked number 3 according to CNN Money as the best city to retire to. Lexington, ranked number 6 by Wallet Hub as the best college city. And Lexington, ranked number 7 by Kiplinger as the most affordable big city. I am, like many of you in this room, very proud to call Lexington, as well as this bluegrass region, home. But the work is not finished. We must be thinking about the future. The vision we execute today will make the difference in creating a more healthy and vibrant Lexington for the future. In 2016, Fifth Third Bank announced a 5-year, $30 billion community commitment. In the first year, we invested $7.8 billion across the company's footprint to deliver on that commitment by deploying the resources to make real and measurable impact in our communities. I am extremely proud because here in Kentucky, we help to fuel that economic growth with over $334 million in affordable housing investments, charitable contributions, and lending that supports mortgage, small business, and community development, all in which revitalizes, stabilizes, and strengthens community growth. Lastly, our wonderful employees across this region dedicated their time and talent serving on local nonprofit boards and committees. Last year, our employees dedicated over 3,000 hours giving back to the communities that we serve and that we love. As you can see, keeping our customers and the community is at the very center of everything we do, and it is the right thing to do every single day. Each of us in this room is an important piece to the fabric of our very communities. So together, let's continue the great work to ensure that Lexington and this bluegrass region continues to thrive. Thank you all for being here.
I take this opportunity to introduce to you my friend and our great leader in this community who has an awful lot going on his plate. Just pick up the paper today and you'll see all the things our Mayor Jim Gray is leading us into and through. And think about how, as we grow this wonderful community, it takes the kind of leadership and vision that we in Lexington are so fortunate to have with Mayor Gray. Jim, would you come speak with us this morning and introduce our guest?
Hey, Alan, thank you. I appreciate that. I was going to say, if you can just go around with me everywhere today and introduce me, I'd really appreciate it. Where's Kelly? Kelly already left us. Kelly, that was great. When you talked about Alan having been here 25 times, what you didn't say was what you said to me earlier, that whenever 2 or 3 are gathered together for conversation and libation, Alan Stein will be there. There you go. Okay, well, before I introduce our speaker, Gil Penalosa, I want to thank some folks who have been really involved in bringing him here, and that is Lisa Atkins and the Bluegrass Community Foundation and Allison Langford. Allison is here somewhere. Allison, hold up your hand. There we are right here. Allison is here with the Bluegrass Community Foundation. Thank you so much. The Knight Foundation, also a big part of this, and the Town Branch Fund, which is led by the irrepressible Ann Bacus, who is here this morning. Ann, thank you for joining us. And you're going to hear, too, from a young man named Jonathan Hollinger, who is the city's project manager for the Town Branch Commons, which includes the Town Branch Park, some of which Gil is going to share with you. Now, I've had the chance to hear Gil's presentation already a couple of times, and I'm going to get to introduce him, I think, while he is here for this immersion project, they call it, all week, sharing his thoughts and ideas. I get to introduce him about 5 times, so by that time I should get pretty good at it. Let me tell you all a little bit about him. Gil is the former Commissioner of Parks for the city of Bogota. And during the time he was there, he imagined and he initiated some remarkable projects, including more than 100 miles of streets converted into pedestrian, bicycle, separated lanes for pedestrians and bicycles, independent lanes for pedestrians and bicycles. He's going to show you, he's going to share some of that with us today. You know, when I think about what Gil is sharing with us, I think about Lexington's history. If we look back 50 or so years ago, that's when, think IBM coming to Lexington. That's when people moved to where the jobs were. As I said, think IBM moving to Lexington. And so many people moved here with IBM. Today it's different. Today the jobs move to where the people are, where the talent is. And the people are moving to where there's a great quality of life. And much of what we're going to hear from Gil about today is how we improve the quality of life, which ultimately leads to a higher economic water table for everyone, for all of our citizens. So, after Gil was Commissioner of Parks, he started a not-for-profit called 880 Cities. And it's in your program today, but let me quickly shrink wrap it. What 880 Cities is all about is providing help to cities across America. He's provided assistance and help and guidance for more than 200 cities across the world. And what 880 stands for is this. If you build a city that's great for 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds, then you will build a city that is successful and great for everyone. And he's going to tell us all about that. And there's one final thing that I really like about his theory, and that is he says this. He says every city should have a law of 2 words. Pedestrians first. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, there we go. Somebody clap. Okay, so you all, please join me now in welcoming Gil Penalosa. And Jonathan, you going to be up here right now too? And Jonathan Hollinger. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonathan Hollinger, and I'm the Director of Project Management in the Mayor's office. And as the Mayor stated, I am the Project Manager for the Town Branch Commons project. I've spent a lot of time with Gil this week. It's been really exciting to hear his perspective, and so we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A, and then we're going to try and take some questions through the Slido system that Alan mentioned earlier. So the first thing, Gil, if you could just tell us a little bit about your time as the Commissioner of Parks in Bogota. You had some really remarkable successes in constructing new parks and about mobility. If you could just tell us about some of your favorite projects in Bogota and some of the lessons you learned and how we could apply them here.
Well, I think that, well, thank you for having me here, and thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. I think that now you explain what 880 is better than I do. Thank you. And actually, when I became commissioner, it was interesting because I initially had not thought of being in the public sector. I had been in the private sector. I had an MBA from UCLA, and actually it was by accident. One of my brothers was running for mayor, and he was not doing very well, so I decided to help him out. As I had not helped him before. And I got to meet the person that eventually became mayor. And when he won, the issues of parks were so not important in the city, as well as the leisure time, that I called him 2 months later. He had not even appointed a commissioner. And I said, you know, Mayor, I've read everything that you said in the campaign, everything that you spoke. You never mentioned the word parks or recreation or leisure time. I would like to have a meeting to share some of the things that we would have done if my brother had won. He was very nice. He invited me 2 days later. We spent 2 or 3 hours. And at the end of the day, he said, you know, Gil, this is really interesting. Let me see how I can involve you in the administration. I said, no, Mayor, I'm not looking for work. I got plenty of things to do. I was CEO, I was running a television company. However, he called me that night and he invited me to be commissioner. I said, you know, give me 24 hours because I think I'm going to have to work 3 times as much and earn 3 times less. So I'm going to ask my wife. At the end of the day, I ended up working 5 times as much and earning 1/5. But it was fascinating. It was exciting. So I tell this anecdote because I think that talking with business people, we should be able to cross over and at some point of our lives, go from the private sector and serve some years with the public sector or with NGOs. It doesn't have to be that all of your life has to be public sector or all of your life NGO no. You can jump from one to the other and vice versa, and it's going to be a win-win for the communities. Some of the things we did, just to summarize some issues, for example, in the first term, we built over 200 parks all over the city. We built small parks and big parks. We built what the mayor was saying about the streets on Sundays. And this will be something great for Lexington. I've seen it work in cities of 10,000, 100,000, 10 million. On Sundays, we open streets to people and close them to cars. So we developed a network. I found a very small program of a few miles, and we turned it into over 70 miles. The largest pop-up park in the world. Sunday mornings we pop it out, and we get all young and old and rich and poor and fat and skinny. And everybody comes to walk, to bike, to skate. But more than anything is to see people, to see each other. I think one of the things that we need in cities today is for people to get to know each other. People do not get to know each other. Think for a minute, in Lexington, where do people meet each other as equals? I have not seen one place in Lexington where people meet each other as equals. That was one of the driving forces for me to get this for everybody. I love parks, but I'm the chair of the World Urban Parks. But most of the people that go to the parks are very homogeneous, are the people that live around the park. You go to see the basketball games. Some tickets are $500, others are $50, so it's not the same. People don't live in the same buildings. They don't go to the same restaurants. So finding places where we can meet each other as equals. And this has been a nice program because this has become like a positive virus. All of a sudden we are doing it now in LA, in San Jose, California, in New York, in Portland, in all kinds of cities across North America, and it's equally successful in most places. So these are just 2 examples, the issue of the parks, the issue of open streets, but also there were many other activities that we could deal with, but I see that you have a lot of questions, so I better stop.
Well, building on that success, I know you had some very measurable success in Bogota in terms of increasing the mode share, people using cycling to get to work in other places. And out of that, you founded 8 Navy cities, and you also, as you mentioned, are the chair of World Urban Parks. Tell us a little bit about that work and how you've interacted with these over 250 cities globally.
Well, this has been fascinating because to be able to, I always say it's not just about sharing, but it's about learning. I've been learning so much. Well, yesterday we were at a meeting at a cocktail, and I had an immersion on horses. Someone was telling me a lot about it. He has a horse farm and telling me about how they do it. So you always learn so much on each one of the cities. There are some common elements. For example, who came walking today? Anybody walk today? One? You know, I think that everybody else walked as well because I don't see any cars here. I don't see any bicycles. I don't see any buses. Every single trip begins and ends by walking. We walk to the cars. We walk to public transit. We walk to the bicycles. We walk everywhere. So one of the common elements is that all over the world, people walk. All over the world, people walk. Walking and cycling. Walking is not a joke. Walking and cycling is not a frivolity. Walking and cycling is the only individual mode of mobility for most people. It's the only individual mode of mobility for all children and youth around the world. You might be the son or the daughter of the wealthiest person of Lexington, or Tirana in Albania, or New York, or Copenhagen. Last week I was working in Sweden. Next week I'm going to be working in Argentina. If you're under 16 in any of those, your only individual mode of mobility is to walk or to bike. So having safe and enjoyable walking and cycling should be almost like a human right. The right to safe and enjoyable mobility. And that is one of the things that I think you should need to work in Lexington, how to make walking and cycling safe for everyone. And that is what, so there are a lot of common elements. Of course, every city is different. The income levels are different, the education levels are different, the weather is different. It's funny, for example, the weather. With the weather is a wonderful excuse for people. Then they say, oh, I cannot walk or bike because it's too hot. And then I go to another country and they say, oh, we cannot walk because it's too cold. I think there's no such issue as bad weather. It's bad clothing. We put on the proper, look, for example, from the point of view of cycling, the city that probably has one of the highest percentage of cycling, Copenhagen, has a higher income than any city in the US. So it's not because they are poor. Has a higher level of education. The weather is horrible. It's cold in the winter, it's hot in the summer, it rains all year round, but nevertheless, 41 out of 100 trips are done on bicycle. 41. And they are not satisfied at 41. They want to go to 50%. So I do think that every city is different, every solution is different, but there are some common themes.
So your work is about creating vibrant, healthy, and equitable communities. What are some of the symptoms, as you would call them, of great public spaces that achieve those goals?
Well, I think that when we evaluate any city, we should evaluate cities by how well we treat the most vulnerable people. And I think the most vulnerable people are the children, the older adults, and the poor. Actually, when I speak, I invite people to become a guardian angel. A guardian angel of the gentle majority. Who's the gentle majority? The children, the older adults, and the poor. By gentle, I mean they are not the squeaky wheel. When you're making decisions, they are not the ones who screaming the loudest. The children are at school, or the children are doing homework or sleeping. The poor people are having 2 and 3 jobs. They are not going to public meetings. So when you make decisions, you need to think, how will this affect the children, the older adults, and the poor? So I think that is one of the elements that we should evaluate cities. For example, I like to run, so sometimes I've been running maybe about 12 or 15 miles of Lexington streets. I almost don't see any benches anywhere on the sidewalks. That is horrible. The older adults will not go out walking if there are no benches. They walk if they know that in 1 or 2 blocks later, they get tired and they're gonna sit. But I don't see benches along the sidewalk. So things like this is some of the symptoms. If you see people, if you see children on the street, if you go to the parks and they are well used. For example, you go to the parks, when you go out, some of the symptoms is have good places to sit, is to socialize, and you see people talking to each other. If you go to public places and you see a lot of women are a really good indicator because women are more selective. Women don't go to public places if they're not safe, if they're not clean. So these are some of the symptoms. But always evaluate communities by how well we treat the most vulnerable people.
I'm going to actually take a question from the Slido system that was submitted. The question was about new developments that are sort of mimicking this downtown urban character, but out in a more suburban setting. An example is a new development here, called Summit at Fritz Farm. It's a much more urban-looking context, but it is not an urban area. I guess, what are your thoughts on new developments that are sort of mimicking that vibrant urban fabric, and how do we encourage that downtown and in other places like the Summit?
Well, I think that is very good. First, I think something that you have fantastic in Lexington, that very few cities have it, is that in 1955, you created an urban boundary, and you said this is how far the city is going to grow. That is fantastic. I think that at some point you created it because you didn't want people to urbanize the beautiful farms. That the same way that some cities, they have mountains, other cities have the ocean or something, here you got those wonderful farms. But much more than that, that urban boundary is good because it's going to force you to densify a little bit and to build a vibrant city. All cities, like sometimes in those neighborhoods in the suburbs, children become slaves of someone who drives a car. They cannot go anywhere without someone driving a car. Some people were saying that a nice neighborhood is where a child, an 8-year-old can go and get an ice cream and walk home before the ice cream melts. Most of those suburbs, there's not even any place where the child can walk. First, it's hard to walk. Second, there's not even places to go where they can walk in distance, they can get an ice cream. So I think that mimicking that, I think, is very good. I think even if you do it in the suburb, you should be able to walk. Within a 10-minute walk, you should have all the basic things that you need. A small grocery store, you should have the ice cream place, you should have a park, you should have a school, you should have density. And by the way, when we're talking about density, sometimes people talk density and they think these 40-story buildings. No, the 40-story buildings, I think they're horrible and they're inhumane. I think it's much, much nicer to have densities through 5- and 6-story buildings. You get the same density through 5-story buildings next to each other as Copenhagen or Barcelona or Paris, than if you get to 40-story buildings every other block. So it's not an issue of density. So I do think that you need to do the suburbs different. Also because you need to have public transit. You need to have good public transit in Lexington. And the only way to have public transit that is viable is if you increase the densities. The transportation issues and the land use are just two sides of the same coin. So I think that it's important to improve the way we do the city centers, but it's also important to improve the way we do the suburbs. So I really like that idea.
As we've talked this week, you've used a quote that said, everybody feels like they're unique just like everybody else. And so, a lot of people would say, well, we're not New York City, we don't have that kind of density, we're not these other cities. What are some, this is sort of a combination of a question that was submitted and one that I have on my list, what are some strategies that have worked in cities that were similar to Lexington that you've worked in before?
Oh, you should celebrate that you are not New York. Instead of envy New York. There are many things that you can do in a city of 300,000 people that you cannot do in a city of 8 million people. So instead of looking at the half-empty glass, look at the half-full glass. There's a lot of things that can happen. In a city like New York, if you want to see the mayor and he doesn't want to see you, it might take you 10 years and you will never see him. Instead, in a smaller city, well, you run into the mayor. You go to the basketball game, you go to the church, you go to the restaurant. So also, you get to know a lot of people. You want to talk to someone in the Board of Education and you know who they are. You want to talk to people in the Board of Trade and you know who they are. So celebrate that it's a smaller city. Also, a city like Lexington It's only 3 miles in each way. So for example, cycling. If you want to have a good city for cycling in Lexington, it would be really, really easy. You only need to have a few, 3, 4 streets going north-south and another 2 or 3 going east-west, and then you are creating a grid of protected bikeways. In New York, you will have to do 30 of those. When you're in a city like New York, if you go to 20 schools, I said, engage the schools. Go to the elementary schools. At AAD cities, we do a lot of work with children. And because, why children? People say, oh, because they are the future. No, not because they are the future. It's because if we educate the children very, very well, they go home and then they educate their parents. And that's part of if the children know how to recycle, they go home and they say, hey, Dad, don't mix that plastic with that other paper. Those are the kind of things that you can do. You can develop some programs in Lexington where you could do, if you want to go to the elementary schools, you could go to every single elementary school. For example, I was working in a city in Texas of similar size, and then all of a sudden they found that a lot of very poor. It was very poor compared to Lexington. One of the poorest cities. The household income was like $35,000. Most of the kids, they don't know how to swim. And the superintendent of the school board decided that every child should learn how to swim. And they built some state-of-the-art swimming facilities. And he said, in the first 5 grades of elementary school, in 1 grade, they're going to learn how to ride bicycles. In the next grade, they're going to learn how to swim. In the next grade, they're going to learn how to swing with a G, is play tennis and play golf. And the other grade, I don't know what. And he said, look, this is really, really important even for these very poor people. For example, golf, they're not going to become champions by just going and playing for 14 weeks. But they will know the terms. So maybe then they go to university and people are talking about golf, and they will know when people are saying about a boogie and a birdie and whatever. They will know what I don't, because I don't play golf, but those kids will. And all of a sudden in this city, of similar population of Lexington, every single kid learned how to swim. But then they found that a lot of the kids would not go swimming because their parents didn't know how to swim. So then they started doing classes. One of the things they found out is that the parents take twice as long to learn how to swim as the children, but in the evenings they started doing. So these are the kind of things that you can do in a city that is smaller than New York. So take advantage of this, whether it is to promote cycling or to teach how to swim or to do any other kind of activity.
Yeah, and we'll take another question that was submitted. Question, it's a good one, it's one that comes up quite a bit, is how do we plan for parks when there's a lot of concerns about public safety? That can range anything from crime to terrorism. I know that you spoke this week about Bryant Park, which is an excellent example of a park that's been revitalized. So talk to us a little bit about addressing some of the safety concerns that people have and how we measure our success there.
Well, unfortunately, one of the things is that the media has made a big issue, and Hollywood has made a big issue out of the parks. New York is divided up by precincts, and they got like 40 different police precincts. Central Park is one of them. The safest precinct in all of New York is Central Park. But anything happens in Central Park, and it's going to be in the news in the smallest town in China. Everybody says, did you see what happened in Central Park? And people say, oh, parks are not safe. Also cities, people tend to think that cities are not safe. The US cities in America are safer today than any time in the last 40 years. The thing is that they have not had as much media. Like people say, oh, children are being kidnapped. Well, not really. 1/3 of the children being kidnapped, or apparently kidnapped, is by their parents. I mean, the children is even worse. It's 80% is by another parent, only 20% now. But homicides. 1/3 of the homicides is by the spouse in the US. Another 1/3 is gun related. So unless you have really, really bad relations with your spouse, or you belong to a gang, the probability is very small. Parks are usually very safe. By the way, we need more parks to have a safer Lexington, not less parks. And sometimes people say, should we have small parks or big parks? We need to have both, because they satisfy different needs. The small neighborhood park, that is where we develop a sense of belonging. That is where we meet our neighbors. That's where we develop a sense of solidarity. So when we see that something is happening in the neighborhood, we see that there is a fight, or there is someone that maybe we don't know what they're doing. If we know our neighbors, we go out and help. If we don't know anybody, we shut the door and we stay inside. So the local neighborhood park substantially improved the safety of the neighborhoods instead of the other way around. And the other parks as well. The thing that makes public spaces safe is when they are well used. When there is no one. For example, you have a beautiful park where all you have is horses. Not live horses, you know. It's beautiful. From the point of view of public art, it's fantastic, but I've been there in the morning and in the noon and at night, and I haven't seen people anywhere. Actually, I had a wonderful coffee across the park. It would be so magnificent if that coffee could set up some tables and chairs and bring some life into the park. That would be really great. Public places, when they are well used, they are very, very safe. When they are not well used, then they can be a source of problem. But parks and public places can be very safe. And the issue of terrorism, my God, the probability of terrorism is almost zero. Obviously, it's very visible, and obviously, we all see the images on TV of the little girls being killed or whatever. But you took a much higher risk driving from home to this meeting than the probability of ever have an issue of terrorism in Lexington.
So you talked about, parks are really successful when they're active and when there's lots of people in them. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? One of the questions that we received was, a lot of times people feel like the space is dominated by one particular group of people. In the example of Bryant Park, the example that you have used is that there was 8 people in the park and they were all doing drugs. But if there was 1,000 people in the park and 8 of them were doing drugs, it would feel like a very different space. So, how do we program spaces and manage spaces to be accessible to all types of people?
I think that across America, one of the biggest problems that we have with parks is that they are undermanaged. And I'm really happy that I'm going to have a possibility to have a 2-hour session with the city staff to exchange ideas at 11 o'clock. Because I think that sometimes we make a confusion. We think that parks management is synonymous to parks maintenance. No, it's totally different. Maintenance is only a small part. Sometimes, the other day I was with a mayor of a city that similar in size to Lexington, and I was saying, Mayor, think all of a sudden you put 4 walls and a roof, and you call it community center, and then you think management. Oh, we need a director, and we need yoga, and we need Tai Chi, and we need activities with the schools, and we need to go to the church and get those people to come to the community center, and we need the seniors, and we need it. But then you do the park, and you think that the park is going to take care of itself. No, think of the park almost as an outdoor community center. The parks need as much management as the community center. You also need to do the outreach. You also need to go to the schools, to the faith groups, to the seniors groups. You also need to think how to use it in the daytime and at nighttime, in the summer and in the winter. And it's the uses and the activities. People want to go to the park. You go to the park if there's 5, 6, 10 things to do, and then you come back. If there is nothing to do, you go and take some photos and never go back. So, for example, some of the things are really simple. Building walking paths. I think all of the parks in Lexington should have a walking path. We have a big issue of public health in Lexington. Big. And I think you need to tackle the public health. 25 years ago, which is nothing 25 years ago, it was 1990. In 1990, 12 out of 100 people in Kentucky were obese, 12. Today, it's 34. So when people say, oh, it's always been like this, no, it's not always been like this. You have gone from 12 to 34 out of 100 from 1990 to today. So how do you do to turn back and now go from 34 to 12, but not in 25 years, in 5? Because what is the issue of having 34% obesity? That you have very high rates of high blood pressure, you have high rates of diabetes, you have huge health costs, and also for the business community, because then you're going to have a lot more cases of absenteeism and efficiency and so on. So the business community should be also very concerned, because people are going to be a lot healthier on this. So that's why they use this and activities of the parks. So the highest cost benefit of any facility in a park is a walking path. Everybody wants to walk. The number one activity in parks all over the world is to walk. And we can even do walking groups. People like to walk with groups, not because of walking itself, but they want to be socialized. Sometimes the other day I was at a park, and I saw this couple that were very overweight, and their kids were playing soccer. And I said, do you ever do exercise? And they said, oh, I don't have time. I'm like a taxi driver. I'm the driver at home. I gotta take my kid from one place to the other. I said, yeah, but you're sitting down having a Dunkin' Donuts and a coffee, and your kid is playing. Why don't you walk around the field? Do 5 laps of walking around while he or she is playing. So those are the things. So whether it's knitting or music or carving pumpkins or whatever, we need to program. The success of the parks, only a small part of it is the design and the construction. Just as important is the management. I find that it seems easier to find the millions to do the parks than to find the thousands to make them work. But if you don't find those thousands, they will not work.
And following on that discussion of health outcomes, one of the questions that we received was, what positive health outcomes have you seen from the result of your work in Bogota and in other places around the world?
Oh, many. And I don't want to show Bogota as the ideal city. Of course, it's not the ideal city. It's a city that is far behind Lexington. However, when I was there, one of the things that I learned is that you can do. So that we are getting paid is not to find 20 excuses why things cannot be done, but actually it's for doing things. All of us, in the private sector, in the public, in the NGOs, we need to become champions at finding solutions to the problems, not at finding problems to the solution. So I don't want to put Bogota as a reference, because these are the kind of things that the best cities in the world are doing. This is very important for all of you as business people, because we live in an ever more globalized world. And in a globalized world, the best people, they can live anywhere they want to. So every morning, the public, private, and NGO sector leaders should wake up thinking, how can we retain the best people? How can we attract the best people? I'm not talking about quantity, I'm talking about quality. I mean, the US is so far ahead that if you open the doors for 24 hours, you can double the population. No, I'm talking about quality. And when I say the best people, it can be the best medical doctors or the best engineers or business or community organizers or coffee makers. If I'm a really good carpenter, I can live anywhere in the world. Where am I going to live? Wherever I have the best quality of life. So this is a huge challenge for all of you. How to retain the best people from UK. How to retain, and how to attract. So I think this is why it's also so linked, the quality of life. That's why I also think that the Town Branch Park can be so magnificent, because it's going to have a huge impact revitalizing all of the downtown. And I know that the Town Branch Park is going to be next to the convention center. And I heard this morning that the convention center is going to grow. Please, tell the architects that are doing that work to make it nice, because it's ugly. Maybe one of the 4 sides is okay, the other 3 are really ugly. So honestly, it looks like a warehouse. You don't want to live next to that warehouse. Instead, even if for technical reasons you are not going to have windows, that's fine. Do some fake windows. do some false facade with windows or what. I mean, there are some magnificent architects and urban planners that can do a magnificent design. Even the wall that is going to be facing the park, maybe it could have a gigantic screen, and then you could have movie nights. Whenever UK was playing basketball, maybe you could have a gigantic screen with the UK playing or whatever. But those are the other things. So everything is linked to everything. You know, the Town Branch Park is going to be linked to 22 miles of trails. So this is going to be like the spinal cord of the city. And what if that spinal cord all of a sudden is interlocking with other small neighborhood parks? What if we get people to be able to walk to that spinal cord and bike through? So it's not just the people that live on the edge, but walking through. It can be totally transformative. But you gotta do it, and you gotta do it fast, because you started talking about it about 5 years ago. Don't stay talking about it for another 20 years. You know, one of the problems that happens in the city sometimes, I tell them, look, you gotta have an attitude, ready, fire, aim. Because many cities is ready, aim, 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 and they never fire. So I think that you pretty much know already what you need to, what you want to do. You have fantastic designers, you are getting really good advice on the management, and like all of the stars are more or less aligned. But it would be nice if we would be fully done in the next 3 years, not in the next 30. And it's totally doable. I mean, things like, when you think of the time that it took to do, now you talked about New York. New York is so hard to do things because of the unions and the taxi drivers and the corruption and politicians and whatever. But nevertheless, they did a Highland Park in 3 or 4 years. So if they can do Highland Park in New York in 3 or 4 years, you should be able to do the Town Branch Park in the next 2 or 3 years.
So speaking of the Town Branch project, Town Branch project has a couple of components for those of you who aren't familiar with it. One is the Town Branch Greenway, which is a series of bike and pedestrian facilities. They are protected from vehicular traffic completely. So to Gil's point about designing cities for 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds, these are facilities that both of those groups would feel comfortable riding on. And there's also the Town Branch Park. It's an interesting model. It is a public-private partnership, so it is not a fully public project. One of the questions we received was what types of funding options are available outside of local taxes. Why don't you talk a little bit about the public-private model of creating great public spaces and how that has worked around the world?
Okay, first, I want to clarify that public parks are public. You are not privatizing the public parks. So don't even think about that. You are privatizing the management of the parks or the fundraising of the parks. And there are many, many, many successful cases. Well, you mentioned Bryant Park in New York. That is one case. I can tell you of many other cases. Piedmont Park in Atlanta, right in the heart of Atlanta, there's a magnificent park and there's a conservancy. So basically what they do is sometimes the cities, either they're going to do a new park, like Highland Park in New York, or like the Town Branch Park here in Lexington. And they said, look, the city doesn't have the money or the resources or even the managerial know-how on how to get this project done in 3 years. But maybe if we engage the private sector, we might be able to do it faster and with more transparency. And that's what they did in New York. It doesn't have to be all private money. In New York, when they did Highland Park, the city put $200 million, and the private sector put in about 40 or 50. So the city put like 80% of it. However, you know, private sector management has been so successful that the mayor of New York, one of the conditions that he put is, he said, a conservancy has to manage the park, or else we don't put that money. But now that I opened that big parenthesis of Highland Park, I want to tell you how successful. Why did New York put in those $200 million? Well, Highland Park, basically, for those of you that don't know, there was a railroad tracks that went into New York, and it was elevated. It was elevated because they used to bring chemicals into the city. So that they would not have any hazard, it was elevated, but it had not been used for the last 25 years. So people were saying, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna tear it down? Are we gonna keep it? And then some citizens and the commissioner of planning, Amanda Burden, they came together and said, why don't we do a park? What a great idea. When the mayor put those $200 million, he thought that through the marginal property tax, not the credit, the marginal property tax, either new buildings or the new value on the existing building, that if someone had an apartment that was worth $500,000, and because of the park now it's worth $700,000, then the $200,000, the marginal, through the marginal property tax, they were going to get the $200 million back in 14 years. Actually, they got it back in half the time. Half the time. It has been tremendously successful to revitalize all of that area of New York. That is the power that the town branch park can have, that it can revitalize. That is the same case as Chicago with Millennium Park. What has happened in Chicago with Millennium Park, and it has revitalized the whole area, or Piedmont Park in Atlanta, or many others. So basically the idea is that the land is public and will continue to be public all, but then you get these people that manage it. And there are many different schemes of how to fundraise. Something that Central Park, one of the things Central Park does, and I love what Allison and the group has planned here, is fundraise. Every one of you will have to give a contribution on your way out. No, fundraise. Someone are going to give $1 million or $2 or $5 million. Others are going to give $1 or $2. So everybody, it would be fantastic if every citizen in Lexington, every citizen gave something, a quarter, 10 cents, $1, $2. So they might sell a daffodil for $2. They might sell a sticker for 25 cents. But that every citizen will say, I contributed to the town branch park. So it's a mix of that. Also, some create kind of like business improvement district and they donate through that. So there are many ways to donate, but I think that the way of funding that is more exciting is when you engage the whole community, and I think that this is will be something innovative. So although it's new in Lexington, don't worry that when I was saying you can learn from others what to do as well as what not to do, there are many successful cases of private sector conservancy managing parks in the U.S. That you can learn from the things that they did well as the ones that did not do as well, and how to do it. And I think that it would be something innovative and interesting, not to copy and paste like on the computer, but to adapt and improve. You're not going to do exactly what Bryant Park is doing or what Piedmont Park is doing. No, you're going to see what's good for one, what's good for the other, and you're going to develop the Lexington model.
With the Town Branch Greenway, Mayor Jim Gray has raised over $40 million in public sector funding, and Ann Bacus and Allison Langford are hard at work to raise the $31 million goal for Town Branch Park. How important is it that people be involved in supporting those decisions? I know you have said before we can't be spectators in urban planning. All of these things matter.
I think that Ann is like a superwoman. So the team of Ann and Allison, both of them are fantastic. But they cannot do it alone. They need all of you. They need the support. I think that everybody has to participate. This has to do with our quality of life. I find that sometimes people give money to when New York, when Central Park was going to start getting money, it was very hard because people said, what? Money for parks? That's why I pay taxes. And then people said, you're giving money to the National Ballet and to the Lincoln Center and to the Opera, but whatever happens in these parks might have more of an impact in your quality of life than those that are also very good institutions. And then they started getting money. So I think that everybody really needs to participate in the process, but not only giving money, also giving ideas. I think that they are going through an extensive program. Also, Kate, from the people that are designing. Oh, she's here. Welcome. And I think the important thing of the design is that they are listening to you. So if any of you have ideas, they're going to the schools. They are going to the businesses, they are going to the parks, they want to hear, they want to get your opinions before, during, after. So participating in not only writing a check is being a part of the project. And hopefully, this is not just to do one fantastic park in the city, but it's to really create a network. Also, I hope that this park will also elevate the expectations so that people will say, oh, you know that guy carving pumpkins in Halloween at the Town Branch Park? I want to have one of those in my neighborhood. You know those benches that they put? I want to have those in my neighborhood park, or those garbage cans. So I think it will be a win-win for many areas. And don't think that all you need to do is give a check, which that will be important, but much more than that is also to be engaged and to be part of the community.
I'm going to take a few questions that were submitted by the audience to wrap up, as we only have a few minutes left. But a couple of the questions are related to sort of the same topic of spaces for different segments of the population. So one of the first questions was Jeff Speck, who is the author of the book Walkable City, says that by 2025, 88% of households are expected to be childless. How does that affect our public spaces? Is that a positive or a negative?
It's neither positive or negative, it's a reality. We need to accept reality as it is. And we need to design our cities around reality. In the US today, the mothers of children, the mothers under 30, half are single moms, half. But we still have on our mind the 1980s and 1990s sitcoms that it was mom and dad and 2 children and the suburbs and 2 cars and a front yard and a backyard. That's not reality. That's not reality. By 2023, the biggest segment of households in the US is going to be single persons. Whether they are young or old or any age of adults that don't want to have children, it's going to be single person, not couples, and not with children. So the way this is a reality, and this is a reality today. Half of the moms under 30 are single. So we need to redesign and think older adults. We are living longer. It's so exciting. You know, we've been around for about 200,000 years. If we had been born in the US 200 years ago, the life expectancy was 39. Most of us will be dead by now. Now, you more than double that life expectancy, around 80. We have doubled the life expectancy. We have learned how to survive. But the big challenge now is to learn how to live. Among other things, you know, what were people dying of 200 years ago? Bad quality of water, bad quality of sewage, infections, and so on. What are people dying of today? Lifestyle-related issues, heart attacks, respiratory problems, suicide, depression, anxiety, and so on. And a lot of that has to do with the built environment. So we need to have a much better built environment. So, and just to mention something else about the older adults. Older adults are the biggest waste of resource in America. People retire and we cross them out as if they had died. Except that they got 20, 30, 40 years left. And they are healthier and wealthier and more active. They could be tutoring kids in the schools. They could be organizing activities in the Town Branch Park. They could be organizing Tai Chi and yoga and painting and walking and knitting and hundreds of activities all over the city. We need to take advantage of this resource. Sometimes cities, they call me and say, oh, Gil, we have a problem. We're getting a lot of older people. I said, do you have any grandchildren? I said, no. Whenever you have grandchildren, do you want to ever meet your grandchildren? Oh, yes. Okay, then you have to live a little bit longer. You want to meet your great-grandchildren? Oh, yes, then you will have to live a lot longer. You know, for cities, sometimes the older adults is an issue of the subsidies. Oh, get rid of the subsidies. In Lexington, no subsidies for older adults, for seniors. We shouldn't have seniors rates anywhere. You know, seniors rate made a lot of sense 50 years ago, when the seniors were very poor. 50 years ago, the level of poverty in the US was about 13%. The seniors are 29, more than twice the national average. And this is a major success story of the US. In less than 2 generations, you went from being more than twice to being half the national average. We shouldn't subsidize by age. Why are we going to subsidize a 70-year-old millionaire just because he or she is 70, and we're not going to subsidize a 40-year-old single mom or dad poor because he or she is 40? So we should start something. So let's take advantage. I think it's a magnificent asset, the older adults, the university. I was telling the president of the university, I said, 25% of your courses should be for older adults. Older adults are hungry to learn. They want to learn about music and history and gardening and cooking and science and all kinds of things. And the university is perfect. You have a lot of empty classrooms in the afternoon. You have hundreds, thousands of people doing masters and PhDs that will be the professors. You have all of the software to register people. So the marginal cost to provide courses for older adults is almost nothing. And imagine how it would transform. I just think of my mom that is 84. If one day a week she was going to go to the UK for a course on Wednesdays, she would spend all of Monday and Tuesday getting ready, doing the reading, thinking how she's going to dress. And then Wednesday is the big day to go to UK. And then Thursday and Friday telling the sons and the grandchildren what you learned and how. It will really improve her quality of life. So there's so many things that we can do, but let's think about it. When I was talking children, older adults, and poor, older adults can be a magnificent asset of Lexington, and don't see it as a problem, but quite the opposite. See it as a great solution for many things.
So I think we're about out of time, but I'm gonna close with this question to you. You have said before that building these great public spaces is not a financial issue. It's not a skills issue, but it's a political issue. It's about the desire to do these things. Tell us a little bit about what you mean by that and how we can sort of transfer from talking to doing.
Well, I think that you waited till your boss left. When the mayor left, now you're asking that question. And by the way, when I say it's not financial or technical, it's political with a big P. Like policy, everybody has to participate. Everybody. We need to have almost like a three-legged stool. One of the legs are the elected officials at the city level, at the state, at the national, at the Board of Education. Another leg is the public sector staff, but not just the planners. Involve parks and transportation and public health and environment and education. And the third leg is the community. All of you, the business people, the media, the activists, the university. But how do you get these three legs working together? What is the glue of this three-legged stool? Is developing a sense of urgency and a shared vision of the city. A sense of urgency, it might be different. It might be economic, it might be public health, but each city has to decide what is our sense of urgency. Our sense of urgency is that we got 34% overweight, or is our sense of urgency that we have too many businesses leaving and we need to revitalize the business community? I mean, each city is going to be very different, but you need a sense of urgency. And if you don't really have one, make one up. When Bloomberg came to New York, he said, New York has 8 million people. He said, New York is going to increase by 1 million. 1 million out of 8 million, okay? That's 15%. He said, if we don't do something about it, we're going to collapse. And he created this plan, NYC 2030, around the globe. 15% growth. Lexington is going to grow by 50, not 15, 50, 50%, 50% by 2050. It's a huge growth, 50%. How are you? That in itself is not bad or good. Actually, it can be a magnificent opportunity. Because if you do it right, if you make sure that those 50% of people are going to have a park within walking distance, that you are going to be able to densify whatever you are going to put public transit routes, so that along the transit route you change the land use, and you're going to say the transit routes are going to have 5 or 6 or 7 stories, to make sure that people can actually walk to all of their basic areas, to make sure that you have a network of parks, the small, the medium, the large, to have, so maybe that is the sense of urgency. To say, look, we are growing so fast, we've been growing, we're going to continue growing, how are we going to do? Or is it the equity issue? But whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I think what is important is that there's not going to be a Martian coming down to fix Lexington. It's up to all of you. All of you working together, the public, the private, the NGOs, on how to create a great city for everyone. And the issue of equity is one thing that has to have us very, very concerned, because we are leaving too many people behind. I've been city after city. I worked in more than 30 cities in the US. The other day I was in Cleveland, and I went with the mayor to one part of the city where the life expectancy is 64. And then we get on the car and we go 10 minutes to another part of the city where the life expectancy is 90. Can you imagine that some people are going to live 50% more just because they were lucky? I mean, what have any of us done to be lucky to have been born in a place with love and food and nurture and so on, or not having born in one of those where the people are living to 64? And it's not Cleveland. You go to Washington, you go to New Orleans, you go to almost every city. That is not normal. That is not normal. And we can and we should improve those activities. But I think you have a lot of good things. You have fantastic. One that I love is the fact that you have the urban area defined, the circle, the boundary. It's great. Also, you have a lot of structure that was designed by Olmsted 100 years ago, and it also, so you have some good bones in the city. Also, you got a lot of philanthropic people that want to give and want to be part of the city. You got a fantastic university. I see so many cities the size of Lexington that don't have a university. Maybe they have a small community college and say, oh, if we only had a university. Well, you got a magnificent university, 35,000 people right in the heart of the city. So also you need to, don't take that for granted. Work closer. I mean, the university also, the president has to work on how to make better connections. There is not even a safe bicycle path to get the students out of campus into the downtown, so that they come and they shop they come to the restaurants of the downtown and they shop here and whatever. No, it's not even safe to bike. Of course, you can also walk. But you can bike in 3 minutes, or you can walk in 25. And then the students say, oh, 25 that way and 25 this way. It might be too much. I'll stay on campus. But if they could bike safely in 3 minutes into a restaurant, they could. So how to make that? It would be fantastic for the economy of the downtown. And also, maybe the students, too many of those students have cars. What do they do in the summer? They spend all summer working, flipping hamburgers to pay for the cars. And you ask them, why do you have a car? Oh, to go to work. And why do you work? To pay for the car. Oh, break that cycle. You know, that's one last thing I'm going to say for all of you, because you are business people. The people in Kentucky that use a car as a mode of transportation are spending $1 out of $4 on mobility. 1 out of 4. Huge. No wonder people don't have money to pay for education or to go on vacation, not even to go to dinner with their family. The American Automobile Association, they want to promote cars, the AAA. They say that a small car costs $8,500 per year. Imagine if you had good public transit and you were able for people to downsize from 2 cars to 1, or from 1 to 0. People are going to have $8,500 in their pocket this year, and $8,500 next, and next, and next. It's as if they had won the lottery. What are they going to do with those $8,500? They're going to go to the local businesses. They're going to go to the restaurants. They're going to go to the bars. They're going to improve their basement and their gardens and so on. Not just the students, everybody, the citizens in general. There is nothing that we could do that would improve the quality of life of people, that allowing people to downsize. That instead of spending 25% of their income on mobility, they would spend 5% in walking, cycling, and public transit. And it would be great for them, it would be great for the economy, it would be great for business, it would be great for everyone. So just be business people, borrow from Nike, the slogan, just do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil.